Billionaire finds Maid's disabled daughter dancing with his own. You won't believe his next move. The grand ballroom sparkled with a harsh, blinding light, a stark contrast to the shadows where secrets festered. It was a lavish affair, attended by the who's who of the elite, yet beneath the glamorous surface, a storm brewed. In the corner, unseen by most, two figures danced, one a young girl with a twisted form and glittering eyes, the other a boy draped in privilege, oblivious to the world outside his gilded cage. They spun like leaves caught in a sudden wind, lost in a moment that felt both miraculous and forbidden. It was magic and it felt wrong. As they danced, whispers snaked through the air, carrying the weight of judgment. What is she doing here? A cold sneer danced on the lips of an older woman, her voice sharp as glass. Doesn't she belong in some care home? The murmur of dissonance rippled across the floor, a tension building like a stretched rubber band, ready to snap. The young maid, invisible to most, watched from the sidelines, her heart pounding. This was the billionaire's house. Her daughter was not meant for this world. Then, just as the boy's laughter rang out bright, innocent, cascading, a glass shattered nearby. The sound was loud, breaking the spell and sucking all the air from the room. All eyes turned to the maid, who fumbled at her apron, embarrassment coloring her cheeks. The girl, her daughter, stilled mid-spin, eyes wide, as she spotted the commotion at the far side of the room, where the billionaire himself, an imposing figure of fascination and dread, stood surveying the scene. Panic flooded the maid's chest as she instinctively reached for her daughter's hand. Before she could move, the billionaire's gaze pinned them in place, electricity crackling between them. He watched, not in disapproval but with something more complex stirring in his blue eyes, a mixture of curiosity and something darker. What was he thinking? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The silence was deafening, punctuated only by the quiet gasps of elegantly dressed witnesses frozen in disbelief. The maid's heart raced. Was this the end of their little dream, the end of that fleeting moment of joy? And as the billionaire took a step closer, something shifted. Suddenly, his lips curled into a grin that sent a shiver down her spine. He had made up his mind, and whatever that mind was conjuring, it felt like an avalanche poised to crush everything in its path. She held her breath, caught between a moment of hope and total despair. What was coming next? Would this night reshape everything they ever knew? The billionaire's gaze pierced through the tension like a hot knife through butter. His smile, initially disarming, twisted into something unsettling, a glint of mischief underlying his interest. As he stepped forward, the crowd parted like water before a ship. Eyes widened, gossip simmered in hushed tones, but it didn't matter to him. He was in control. The maid clutched her daughter's hand tighter, ready to pull her away from the unwanted attention. We need to go, she whispered urgently. But the girl's gaze remained locked onto the boy, her spirit seemingly unbreakable in that moment. She had found joy in an unlikely companionship, and the maid's heart ached with a longing she could scarcely name. What's your name? The billionaire's voice bellied an unexpected softness that seemed to cradle the chaotic energy around them. The girl hesitated, eyes darting between her mother and the stranger hovering above them. Lila, she finally answered, her voice barely a whisper yet tinged with defiance. Well, Lila. The billionaire knelt down, bringing himself to her level, his blue eyes glowing like sapphires. It's not every day I see someone dance so freely. You have a gift. A flicker of hope ignited in Lila's eyes, as if a door had been flung open to a world beyond her mom's fears. The crowd remained silent, the whispering woods of the ballroom now transfixed by this unexpected exchange. The maid's chest tightened. She doesn't belong here. We should leave, she urged again, desperation rising in her voice. This was not a fairy tale, this was reality, and the walls of the billionaire's world were lined with judgment. "No," Lila protested, "I want to stay." The firmness in her small voice surprised them both. The billionaire smiled again, a hint of amusement playing on his lips. "Your mother is right, this place is not meant for everyone. But what if I told you I could help?" The offer hung in the air like a suspended cord, vibrating with possibilities the maid had never pondered. What could he possibly gain from this? The quiet truth gnawed at her, the vast chasm of their lives compared to his wealth and influence. "Help?" she echoed, disbelief cracking her tone. He straightened, towering above them once more. "Your daughter has talent. I need someone like her in my life, someone who can remind me of the simple joys." Stunned by his utter disregard for decorum, the crowd began murmuring again. The older woman who had sneered moments ago looked on, her face twisted in outrage. "You can't be serious!" she exclaimed, arms crossed, clearly appalled. "You would stoop to this? It's an embarrassment." "Oh, it's a decision, my dear," he shot back, icy composure intact. "And sometimes, those who live in gilded cages only see their own reflections." This blatant defiance toward elite disgrace hung heavy in the air, electrifying the ballroom while crumbling the facade of power. The maid's heart raced. Could he really mean it? "What do you want from us?" she dared to ask, her voice trembling, his gaze sharpened, his next words falling like heavy bricks. "Just a chance to change everything." Suddenly, the crowd shifted, expectations swollen like undulating tides, caught in the chaos of the unknown. Lila stepped toward the billionaire, uncertain yet drawn by the gravity of his proposal. As the maid reached out to pull her back, a deafening silence engulfed the room. The billionaire's smirk broadened, and it was clear, he wasn't done with them yet. What was he planning to do with Lila? Was this their chance or an even greater threat? The weight of possibility loomed over them. The maid could feel the ground shifting beneath her feet. She had to make a choice. Would this singular moment consume them, or would it lead to a burgeoning future of unexpected potential? The silence was suffocating. Lila took another step, her small feet moving toward the billionaire as if drawn by an unseen force. The maid's heart raced, the world around her blurring into a wash of colors. Everything was happening too fast. "Lila, come back!" she shouted, desperation choking off her voice. The crowd reacted, gasping collectively as if they shared her fear. Whispers ricocheted off the walls. "Let her be," the billionaire said, his tone smooth as silk. "This isn't a trap. It's an opportunity." But the maid knew better. She felt the icy fingers of dread grip her heart. "You don't understand, she's my daughter. She deserves what she deserves is to breathe, to be free," he interrupted firmly, his eyes never leaving Lila. "Not trapped in a life that stifles her spirit." Lila was enraptured, her innocent face lighting up like fireworks on the 4th of July. "Mom, please, I want to dance." The sparkle in her eyes was unmistakable, a wish, a dream igniting, bright and fearless. The maid struggled between protecting her daughter and allowing her to chase after this glimmer of hope. What if this man could help? But what were his motives? The walls of the ballroom echoed with judgment, a stark reminder that chances came with risks. Lila finally spun around, her laughter slicing through the tension. It was unguarded joy, pure and sweet as honey. At that moment, all eyes were on the girl. The maid's heart plummeted as she realized they were witnessing something monumental. "Quite the dancer you are, Lila," the billionaire exclaimed, encouragement flowing from his lips like music. "How about we have a little fun?" "What kind of fun?" the maid murmured, each word sticking in her throat. "Let me show you." He turned to the band at the corner of the room, snapping his fingers. "Play something uplifting. Something she can lose herself in." The musicians hesitated, glancing nervously at the crowd. This was unorthodox, a scandal brewing. But the billionaire's ice-blue gaze held them captive, like moths to a flame. As music filled the space, Lila danced, each movement more free than the last. The crowd's collective breath caught, some began to whisper, the earlier disdain morphing into reluctant admiration. The billionaire watched with a smirk, leaning against the polished wooden railing like the king watching his court. The maid's stomach twisted. He was enjoying this, reveling in the attention. But for Lila, it was everything, a spotlight illuminating her dreams. She twirled, lost in her own world, laughter bubbling up as she spun faster, faster. How could a place so grand feel so intimate? Yet beneath that playful surface, a sinister undertow lurked. The maid glanced at the crowd, faces shifting from amusement to confusion. Would they accept this? Was the billionaire merely toying with them? Do you see? He asked, turning to the maid, his smile disarmingly charismatic. She deserves this moment, and I can give her so many more. But what do you get from it? She pressed, the words bursting forth. Can't a man enjoy a little light in his life? Or perhaps, an inspiration that challenges the norm? He challenged, his smile faltering, just for a moment revealing a flicker of something darker beneath the surface. Lila danced on, oblivious, the music swelling around her. The maid felt the night pressing in, each second etched tension deeper into her chest. She saw the onlookers, mouths agape, their expressions shifting from disbelief to despair. Would this dance seal their fate? Would Lila's joyous moment become a bargaining chip in someone else's deal? As Lila's laughter rang out, the maid's resolve hardened. No, she whispered fiercely. You won't use her like this. But just as she thought she could reach for Lila and pull her back, the billionaire's face darkened, and a chilling promise lingered in his eyes. Don't underestimate what I can do for you both. The music twisted into a haunting melody, and the shadows in the ballroom seemed to stretch longer. The maid's heart thudded ominously. Was this the start of a rescue, or had they just stepped into a trap? What awaited them on the other side of this fleeting moment? What price would they pay for the chance to dance? The answers hovered tantalizingly out of reach, beckoning like shadows in the dim light of the ballroom. Lila spun, her laughter weaving into the notes of the music, a thread of innocence in a tapestry heavy with uncertainty. Each twirl sent her skirt blooming outward, a flower unfurling, while the maid felt more like a withering leaf. Her world, once secure, slipped further into chaos. Lila! Please! The shout tore at her throat, a desperate echo lost in a hurricane of sound. She reached out, her arms aching to envelop her daughter, to shield her from the looming shadow of the billionaire, but the crowd had thickened, an impenetrable wall of curiosity. Amid the swell of the music, something in the billionaire's gaze shifted, a sharp pivot from amusement to something more predatory. His smirk faded, revealing the undercurrent of ambition that churned behind it. Compassion seemed a mere mask, the sincerity of his words hanging like smoke in the air. Lila, darling, he called, his voice smooth and inviting, too polished for comfort. Would you like to show them your best move? Prove to your mother what you can really do? The maid's heart dropped. Was he taunting her? Testing her limits? She could feel the eyes of the crowd on her now, whispers curling around her legs like vines. They wanted a show, a spectacle of a girl dancing her heart out under a man's spotlight, a price tag she wasn't ready to pay. Come on. Lila clapped, oblivious to the tension. Let us show them. The billionaire stepped closer, tension coiling tighter around the maid's insides. This is what young spirits need, isn't it? A chance to shine. He turned his gaze to the crowd, inviting them into his game. Let her be free. Not at your expense. The words burst forth before she could stop them, raw and defensive. The uproar in the room hushed, eyes widening as the audience turned its focus back towards her, his expression hardened, a mask of annoyance slipping past the charming facade. Then you'll hinder her growth, keep her locked in a cage, he replied, almost coldly, a challenge dancing in his icy tones. What do you know about cages? She hissed, fury flaring. But the more she reacted, the more every soul in the ballroom leaned in as if partaking in a thrilling performance. Would they witness a mother fight for her child or a desperate gamble unfold? "Careful, darling maid," he said with a low, taunting murmur, "you might just find yourself joining her in this cage, the one you're so afraid of." Lila, feet dancing, clapped her hands, pulling the audience closer into her joy. Overpowered by the upbeat melody, the room seemed entranced, swaying along with her, yet the maid stood rooted in place, adrenaline pulsing, rising like bile. At that moment, the music shifted, the notes becoming darker, enchanting yet sinister. Lila twirled, spinning obliviously as if drawn deeper into a waltz of unanticipated danger. The veil of their joy felt thin, vulnerable to the claws of reality. "Do you see now?" the billionaire murmured, stepping deliberately toward Lila, his silhouette casting an ominous shadow as he moved closer. "Freedom means not just to dance, but to choose your own fate." The maid shook her head, each word stinging like ice water splashed across her face. "You think you can control this? You think this is freedom? You're wrong." For a moment, time stretched. The music's tempo beat like a frantic heart, and Lila danced on, an oblivious angel among wolves. The maid's heart raced not just with urgency but with fear overwhelming her senses. All at once, the billionaire's fingers grazed Lila's shoulder, the touch light, yet it electrified the room. Waves of gasps rippled through the crowd, they were witnesses now, not merely spectators. "Dance with me, Lila," he coaxed, dark charms swirling like an undercurrent. "Let us show them the true art of freedom." The maid felt time pause, the air thickening with expectation as she fought against the tidal wave of a father's helplessness against a predator's seduction. As Lila smiled, eyes wide with wonder, a flood of certainty crashed over the maid. There was no choice but to confront the darkness that threatened to swallow them whole. "Enough!" she shouted, her voice ringing out, torn yet fierce as she stepped forward, and just like that, the room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for what would come next. What would she sacrifice to protect Lila from this beautiful monster? Would she have the courage to reclaim her daughter from the depths of a charm that could very well manipulate their lives? The choice loomed, palpable, heavy, and the stakes rising as she stood at the precipice of freedom and illusion. The crowd shuddered at her outburst, as if she had cracked a fragile glass. Eyes darted between the maid and the billionaire, tension crackling in the air like static electricity. For a heartbeat, everything froze, the music fading, the rhythm of Lila's dance stumbling to a halt. "Such passion," the billionaire remarked, his voice a silky threat, laced with sarcasm. "But is it passion for the girl, or for your own pride? Is the mother willing to sacrifice her daughter's spark for a moment's defense? Stop playing games!" she shouted back, her heart pounding in her chest. The ground felt unsteady beneath her feet, as if she were living in a waking dream. "You think this is a joke? You don't own her." He chuckled softly, low and rich, as if savoring a perfectly aged wine. "But that's just it. In this world, some do own others. You enable me by keeping her from the opportunity of greatness." He leaned closer to Lila, whose innocent smile was seemingly unaffected by the growing storm. "Why not let her be part of something larger?" The maid felt her stomach knot twisting tighter. Reality blurred as she weighed the stakes, her thoughts screaming frantic warnings. Lila, ever blissful, was poised on the edge of a cliff, unaware that one wrong step could plunge them both into darkness. "Wake up, Lila!" she cried, her chest heaving with panic. "He's not your friend. This isn't freedom, it's a trap." With her mother's words ringing in her ears, Lila paused, confused. "But I'm just dancing," she replied innocently. The contrast of her sweet naivety against the sinister undercurrents in the room made the maid's heart ache. "Exactly, sweetheart." The billionaire brushed Lila's hair back, his fingers lingering too long, each touch sending a shiver down the maid's spine. "But dancing without purpose is merely spinning in circles. Isn't it better to aim for something higher?" Lila, don't listen. The maid shouted through the rising tumult of emotions. Dance for you. Not for him. Lila hesitated, caught between her mother's urgency and the allure of the billionaire's promises. The room thickened with expectation, a collective breath held tight in the throats of the gathered guests. Shadows stretched across the polished floor, reflecting the sinister play unfolding before them. Can't you see, my dear, he said, lowering his voice to an almost conspiratorial whisper, life is filled with difficult choices. It's time you learn that not everyone will have your best interests at heart. A flicker of doubt crossed Lila's face, confusion battling against her youthful hope. The billionaire stepped back, an almost predatory satisfaction in his gaze, as if orchestrating this entire charade like a puppet master. This is your chance, he continued, voice smooth as silk. Imagine the glory, the audience cheering for you. He waved his hand dramatically, making the crowd roar with applause as if they were fanning an unlit fire. Freedom, fame, a life unbound by fear, all within your grasp. The maid felt her world implode, the ground quaking beneath her. This isn't freedom. She cried out, the rawness of her despair cutting through the orchestrated charms surrounding them. She stepped forward, heart pounding, determined to snatch Lila back from the brink of this performance, but as she lunged toward her daughter, the billionaire moved, his hands swift as lightning, gripping Lila's wrist. Make your choice, Lila, he said, holding her suspended between them. Will you dance with me, or go back to hiding in your mother's shadow? The tension hung like an iron chain, thick and suffocating. The minutes stretched into an eternity as the eyes of the room bore down on them, the anticipation almost unbearable. The billionaire's grip tightened, his smirk firm, while the maid felt her heart splinter. In the weight of that moment, Lila's eyes created a mirror of her mother's pain mingling with fear. Everything hinged on her next word. Would she find her own freedom amongst the dangers that beckoned, or would she turn back to the safety of love? And just as the gut-wrenching air stilled, Lila opened her mouth to speak, but what would come of her decision? An answer lingering heavy in the air, one that could shatter everything they knew. Lila's eyes sparkled with uncertainty, the flickering hope battling against the tension choking the room. Seconds felt like hours, her lips hesitating as the billionaire's grip seemed to whisper promises of grandeur. The crowd held its breath, their collective silence amplifying the stakes. Dance with me, darling, he coaxed, his tone both indulgent and sinister. Together, we'll create something unforgettable. The maid's heart raced. Lila, it's a lie. She cried, anguish twisting her voice. Don't let him manipulate you. Please, you have to remember who you are. The billionaire's smile widened, confident in his conquest. You see. Your mother's fear is her weakness. What is your greatest dream, Lila? To be a star. All you need to do is take a leap. The shadows danced on the walls, flickering as the chandelier lights dimmed momentarily, heightening the drama of their standoff. Whispers rippled through the crowd, everyone was gripped by the spectacle. Men leaned forward, women clasped their hands to their mouths. Lila. The maid pushed through the crowd, each step a battle against the churn of despair. You're like isn't dependent on him. You are special on your own. Don't let him extinguish you. Could she break through? The maid's voice cracked under the weight of emotion, wrapping around the moment like a taut wire ready to snap. Mom. Lila's voice trembled, quivering between the two worlds she stood atop. I don't want to disappoint you. But I'm scared. The billionaire's grip relaxed, he saw the chink in Lila's armor and pressed it, veins spiraling with triumph. Fear is just part of life, sweet girl. Let me teach you to conquer it. Dance with me, and you'll discover the power within. A murmur rippled through the crowd, a shared thrill of anticipation mixed with horror. Some whispered encouragement, others felt pity. Each person projected their desires and insecurities onto the unfolding drama. It was as if they had all become characters in a twisted play, uncertain actors in a high-stakes deal. It's okay to be scared. Lila breathed, tears pooling in her eyes, shadows twisting her youthful features. But dancing with you feels like losing myself. The billionaire's smile faltered briefly. You'd never lose yourself, Lila. This is a gift. Embrace it. The maid seized the moment, stepping closer. Lila, true freedom lies in being who you are, not who someone else wants you to be. Remember your father, the dreams he shared with us. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, casting the ballroom into temporary darkness. Gasps echoed, and then settled into an eerie silence. For that heartbeat, it felt like the universe had paused, suspended in anticipation of Lila's choice. In that fleeting dark, Lila seemed to find clarity, her delicate frame trembling with decision. The lights blazed back to life, and the sight that met them was startling. The maid's heart dropped. Lila was stepping toward the billionaire, her face a mix of excitement and surrender. A cacophony of gasps erupted, the air thick with betrayal, but just as the billionaire's face lit with triumph, Lila's expression shifted dramatically. She looked back at her mother, her eyes alight with something visceral. "I will dance," she declared, the defiance rising in her voice, filling the room with electric charge. "But on my terms." The billionaire realized too late that this wasn't the victory he had imagined. She turned to the crowd, pulling them into her orbit as she spun away from him, her movements gathering a fierce energy that was breathtaking. "Dance is my expression. You can't cage me." With those words, the room ignited with applause, people swept away by her raw passion. Lila slipped from the billionaire's grasp, taking center stage, locking eyes with her mother, the love pulsing across the space between them, but just as the applause reached a feverish pitch, the billionaire's laughter sliced through the noise like broken glass. "This isn't over, little girl. I assure you, the dance has barely begun." An icy grip of fear curled around the maid's heart at the thought of what this man could do next. As tension thickened, shadows loomed larger, the stakes had escalated. What fresh storm threatened them now? Just how far would he go to reclaim his power over Lila? The air crackled, every heartbeat echoing the question that hung unasked: what darkness awaited in the wings? Lila twirled, her skirts swirling around her like a burst of color amid the growing darkness. The applause felt like a fusion of warmth and magic, but lurking beneath that glow was an unmistakable chill. The billionaire's eyes, now full of fury, bore into her, igniting a roar of tension that had everyone on edge. "Dance all you want," the billionaire hissed, his voice low and menacing. "But remember, every action has consequences." The maid felt the words wrap around her like icy tendrils. Could he really do something? Would he unleash his wrath upon them? She could see Lila's confident smile start to falter ever so slightly, worry twinging at the corners of her lips. "Mom!" Lila called out, urgency creeping into her tone. "I'm okay. I'm fine. Please, just focus on the dance." But the maid knew better. The cloud of dread settled around her, thick and suffocating. "Lila, don't let him get into your head. You have to stay strong." Suddenly, the music shifted, almost as if triggered by the billionaire's anger. The upbeat tempo turned dark, heavy with foreboding. The crowd shifted uneasily. Uncertainty seeped into their cheers. They weren't sure if they were witnessing liberation or a tragedy unfolding before their eyes. The billionaire took a step forward, a sharp smile creeping onto his face, but it was devoid of warmth. "Did you think you could take my spotlight without consequences? Let me remind you who really holds the power here." He signaled discreetly, and the atmosphere crackled with tension, a shocking twist to the vibrant narrative Lila had just spun. The maid's breath hitched as she sensed the invisible threads of control tightening. "What is he doing?" she whispered, panic gripping her heart. Lila's movements grew frantic, her beautiful dance teetering on the edge of frenetic unease. "Mom, don't worry." But before she could finish, the lights flickered violently, plunging the room into darkness once more. The soft hum of chatter turned into a cacophony of cries. "What is happening?" A voice rang out, filled with alarm. Then it happened. A loud crash echoed through the ballroom, glass shattering against the cold floor. The lights flickered back on to reveal the billionaire, laughing, holding a photograph small and crumpled in his hand. "I think you all might want to see this," he declared, his voice booming with a chilling edge. The crowd froze, their attention locked on him, hearts racing. He raised the photograph high, a distorted image of Lila that made her gut twist. It was a picture of past performances, one that showed a broken dancer, the result of ambition twisted into despair, a shadow of the bright spark she'd been. "Such a shame. It could have been yours." Gasps erupted. The walls felt like they were closing in. The maid's vision blurred with fear, the implications of the photograph crashed over her like a tidal wave. "No!" Lila screamed, lunging for the billionaire, but he stepped aside, reveling in the chaos he had unleashed. "You don't know what you're doing. Let me show you." But before she could act, a hush fell over the crowd. In that silence, the chilling truth settled. What would he expose next? What more could he take from her? "Look at your choices, Lila," he taunted, eyes glimmering with malice. "Your dance is only as free as you're willing to make it, but this isn't just a performance. You will face the consequences of every step." The tension thickened, the crowd shivered with anticipation. What would happen next? What horrors lay in wait after this nightmare's unveiling? Hope flickered dimly within Lila, but fear clung to her like a shadow. She would have to fight not just for herself, but to protect everyone she loved from this man's unyielding hand. What depths of darkness would they have to brave? And what other secrets were lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to be revealed? Lila's heart pounded as she stood frozen, the world around her fading in the wake of that awful photo. It felt as if the spotlight, that once ignited her spirit, was now a noose tightening around her throat. The onlookers, those who once cheered, now whispered and stared with wide eyes, disgust and pity mingling in the silence. The billionaire stepped closer, his smile dripping with malice. "Shall I show everyone how quickly a star can fall?" His tone dripped with venom, each word slicing through Lila's resolve. The laughter bubbling in his chest tainted the air, sending chills racing down her spine. "No. Please." Lila's voice trembled, a whisper barely escaping her lips. She couldn't let him drag her past into the light, to expose her weaknesses. Already, she felt her courage slipping away, shadows of despair crackling around her like static. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced loudly, his voice echoing across the ballroom, "witness the true art of failure." The crowd shifted, their gasps merging into a singular gasp of horror. "Lila here thinks she can easily mask the scars she bears. Let us not let her get away with it, shall we?" Desperation fueled her next move. "Mom!" she cried out, her eyes darting toward the maid, a plea for strength. Lila needed to gather her thoughts and shield those tenacious others from the fallout of this tyrant's hate. But the maid was trapped in her own spiral of fear. She knew the girl's pain, their shared moments in the dim corners of the world where dreams occasionally flickered. "Don't," she breathed, stepping into the fray, her body between Lila and the billionaire. "You have no right to do this." The billionaire coaxed the crowd with an exultant wave, flaunting the photograph like a trophy. "Oh, but you see, she's just a dancer. Don't we all know how easily they can crumble under the pressure? This twisted game should not be political. No child had to pay for their mother's dreams." The lights flickered again, the sinister hum of the music morphing into a haunting melody, almost mocking as it crescendoed. In this chaos, Lila felt something ignite in her chest, a flicker of defiance. How could she allow him to control her narrative? "Listen!" she shouted, her voice gaining strength. "You want to erase my story, but it's mine to tell." The people before her shivered, their gazes searching for the truth behind her words. "What a brave act, my dear." The billionaire chuckled, amusement lighting his eyes. "But bravery without judgment only leads to more folly." He dropped the photograph onto the floor, and the crinkles echoed, inviting curious glances from the crowd. Who believes she can truly dance when the floor beneath her crackles with her own failures? Fear wrestled with hope as Lila took a step forward, driven by an inner fire. Maybe I do stumble, but I stand again. And I won't let you tear me down. A ripple of surprise washed over the audience. Was this the moment the tide would turn? Suddenly, there was a loud crash at the ballroom doors. They burst open, a burst of cold air sweeping through the gathering. All heads turned, faces morphing from shock to horror. What in the world? Gasped a voice from the crowd. The doors swung wide, revealing not just simplicity in the chaos but a figure stepping into the heated fray. Hope and fear intermingled. Who had entered the whirlwind? Lila's breath caught as she recognized the silhouette of a familiar face emerging from the shadows. Would this friend bring salvation or deepen the darkness? Each moment stretched as the crowd held its breath, waiting for the unspoken bond to unravel before them. What new twist lay ahead? The figure stood at the entrance, illuminated by a sudden spotlight that flickered to life, casting an almost ethereal glow against the darkness of the moment. Lila squinted through the blinding light, heart racing with the possibilities. The audience around her was a sea of stunned faces, their breaths collectively held, each person entangled in their own swirling thoughts. Lila! The figure called out, urgency lacing the familiar voice. It was Mia, her childhood friend, full of spirit and unwavering loyalty. She stepped into the ballroom with fierce determination, the chaos around them momentarily forgotten. With every step, her presence cut through the tension, replacing it with a raw, palpable hope. What are you doing here? Lila whispered, her heart soaring and sinking all at once. Could Mia possibly understand the gravity of what was unfolding? Mia didn't hesitate. I came to show you that you're not alone. Her arms opened wide, an invitation for strength and solidarity that Lila desperately needed. But the billionaire wasn't ready to let this moment slip away. You think this is a soap opera? He sneered, glancing back at the crowd, who was now poised on the edge of their seats. Let us see what kind of support this pathetic display can muster. After all, aren't friends always so eager to dive into the murky waters of each other's failures? Lila's heart sank. The darkness of his words wrapped around her again, tighter than any noose could. She could feel the weight of his gaze like a blade at her throat. But alongside that, a flicker of defiance ignited anew, and she would not back down. Mia stepped forward, unfazed. You don't scare us. She shouted, her voice ringing out with the boldness of a battle cry. The crowd couldn't help but shift, caught between the tension of this intense face-off and the mundane expectations of a lavish evening. With the audience's attention now split, Lila took a deep breath, drawing from the power of their camaraderie. Mia is right. You can't use my past as a weapon. You can't drown me in your darkness. The billionaire held up a hand to silence her. But I can expose every secret that brings light to your facade. Let us see how your bravado holds up under scrutiny. His sinister smile stretched, and for a moment, it felt like the air had thickened, the weight of looming danger pushing down on Lila's shoulders. Suddenly, Lila heard a soft gasp from the crowd. Her eyes darted towards the swarming faces and landed on a newcomer, a young girl timidly pushing her way through the throng. It was the daughter of the maid, the girl whose smile had lit up the dimmest of days for Lila. Her bright eyes darted around, finally landing on Mia and Lila, filled with a mixture of confusion and longing. Mom! The girl called out, barely above a whisper. Lila's breath hitched. The reality of the scene hit her like a freight train. The billionaire didn't just hold power over her. He now threatened the very core of their lives. Lila could feel her resolve shaking like the fragile glass of a stained window. Let her come forward, the billionaire said smugly, excitement dancing in his voice. We must document the entire tragic play of this little family of failures. Anger rippled through Lila. No! She shouted, taking a bold step toward the girl. You're not just a pawn in his twisted game. Mia moved to Lila's side, both friends standing united against the oppressive chaos. But Lila knew the stakes had escalated. Could they really fight against such powerful darkness? The girl hesitated, her innocent gaze searching Lila's face for reassurance. With her heart racing, Lila reached out, offering her hand, a lifeline in the turbulent storm. As the crowd leaned forward, hungry for the unfolding events, Lila felt the world shrink down to that singular moment, the challenge ahead blazing in her chest like fire. What would happen next? Would their united front be enough against a monstrous adversary willing to take everything from them? The billionaire's laughter filled the room, twisting the air. Let us see how the story unfolds, shall we? And in that moment, as the audience held their breath, the shadows threatened to consume everything. What would break next, Lila's spirit or the hold of her adversary? The air pulsed with tension, a standoff that felt like 1,000 lives hanging by a thread. Lila's heart thundered, caught between her past and the future creeping ever closer. Step forward, dear, the billionaire taunted, gesturing toward the maid's daughter, who stood frozen, uncertainty flashing across her delicate features. Let us see what shines brighter, the promises of a childhood stolen or the truth of your mother's failures. Lila's chest constricted. This was now about more than just her. It was about them, about a bond forged not just in blood but also in shared dreams. You don't have the right. She shouted, her voice slicing through the chaos. We're not your entertainment. Mia squeezed Lila's hand tightly. Together, they faced the billionaire, a wall of determination against his looming shadow. You think you can turn our lives into a stage for your amusement? Mia shot back, her voice unwavering, fierceness radiating from her like heat. The smile on the billionaire's face wavered slightly. For a fleeting moment, doubt seemed to flicker just beneath the surface, a crack in the carefully constructed facade of power. But every performance needs an audience, doesn't it? He retorted, eyes glinting. Ignoring him, Lila stepped closer to the maid's daughter, who looked torn. It's okay to be scared, she said, voice softening, reminding her of their shared dance in the shadows, their laughter ringing clearer than any judgment. But you are not a reflection of anyone's mistakes. You're a light. Just like you showed me. Slowly, the girl took a hesitant step forward, emboldened by Lila's courage. With a trembling smile, she reached for Lila's outstretched hand, their fingers entwining. The crowd collectively gasped, confusion flickering. Would it be acceptance or rejection? Look at that, the billionaire sneered, focusing on their bond. A united front against the storm. But storms are merely a prelude to the downpour. Pain shot through Lila's chest as the dark truth lingered, but she wouldn't back down. No one can take our joy unless we let them. She declared, strength seeping into every syllable. Not you. Not the whispers. She turned to the crowd, voices rising and forming a chorus of support. We are more than your judgments. We are our stories. A wave of murmured agreement flowed through the room, hesitant at first, but gaining momentum. The shimmering light that danced through the ornate chandeliers felt like a beacon, gathering hope from scattered hearts. The billionaire's smile faltered, uncertainty creeping in as the crowd shifted, empathizing with the warmth of the moment. Every action has consequences. He spat, the venom in his tone betraying his panic. I can expose what's hidden. I can tear this unity apart. But holding on to the girl's hand felt like holding on to an unbreakable thread, weaving them all together in a tapestry of resilience. Let it come. Lila shouted, challenging the storm. We'll shine through. Your darkness has no hold here. The crowd erupted in cheers, voices echoing with newfound strength, their words colliding with the billionaire's taunts. The ballroom ignited with life, the energy flipping in an instant, a transformation of fear into unwavering purpose. I want to let you dim our light. The maid's daughter shouted, voice quaking but filled with courage as she stepped forward, standing shoulder to shoulder with Lila. The union of shadows had birthed a light brighter than all their collective scars. The billionaire's expression darkened, the polished mask of control cracking further. You think this is over? He hissed, fury painting his features. You'll regret this moment. Maybe regret was always yours to bear. Lila cried, taking a step closer, eyes steady, heart racing. In the swirl of swirling emotions, she surged forward, claiming her truth and her strength. This moment, our moment, is a gift from us to each other. You can't break what's already healed. The ground shifted beneath them, reality rippling and reshaping. As Lila locked eyes with the crowd and the maid's daughter, determination surged. They were ready to face whatever darkness the billionaire threatened, no longer alone in the shadows but armed with collective hope. With that, the music swelled again, transforming into a triumphant symphony, celebrating not just dance but freedom, acceptance, and everything they were together. Unity resonated within the space, fortifying them, showcasing the indomitable spirit swirling in the air. The billionaire took a step back, confusion swirling within him as the crowd surged forward, ready to hold their ground. This was not his stage. This was a tapestry of their stories, woven together in strength and love. Enough! Lila shouted one last time, a fierce proclamation that silenced the lingering darkness. We won't let you puppet our lives, nor will we bow to your false power. And as she stood tethered to her friend and the maid's daughter, their presence vibrant and steadfast, it was clear, this was their moment. Love triumphed over fear, and the darkness that had once threatened to swallow them whole flickered into nothing. This story wouldn't end here, it had just begun. After the dance, after the shadows, the world awaited, filled with endless possibility and a future shaped by the light they would carry together. Lila turned to the crowd, her heart racing with the energy that surged from them all. Join us! She burst out, inviting them to dance into a new chapter. Together, we can change the narrative. The applause thundered, shaking away the remnants of shadows, echoing their unity and the power of choice. As the atmosphere crackled with promise, Lila realized this night would shape not just her future but all of theirs. In the glimmer of hope, they had found their strength and a new beginning. And with one final, collective breath, they dared to step into the light. Now, don't wait another second. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Tell me in the comments how you felt about this jaw-dropping conclusion, and flood that section with your reactions and wild theories. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this electrifying ending. Your support matters, and this is the moment to show it.